the fall. I can't think of a better way to enjoy the fall season than to pop in a spooky and mysterious video game. Although, what game should I play today? Silent Hill 2, the remake? Nah, I'm not really digging the whole psychological horror thing. Plus, I'm kind of finding myself a bit confused about these enemies. Like, how am I supposed to feel about them? Because what I'm feeling might not be correct. Yeah, how about we don't dive deep into my own psyche for this episode? Let's see, what's next? The Resident Evil Classic Collection that I apparently spent $20 on. Also, according to this receipt, I bought Knights of the Old Republic 1 and 2 for the Xbox. I also bought Harvest Moon Magical Melodies for the GameCube. You know, that actually would have made a pretty cool fall-themed video. But we're not going to be talking about that game today. No. Today on Loon Junk Media, we're going to be taking a look at Resident Evil 0. Not the first one. Resident Evil is it's kind of an interesting game. I don't hear a lot of people talk about it. In fact, I feel like it kind of gets overshadowed by the much more praised games like Resident Evil 1, 2, and of course 4. I've seen mixed reviews about this game. Some like it for its unique gameplay and ideas, others don't. And to be honest, while I do like the game myself, it does have a lot, and I mean a lot, of dumb ideas. Mostly in terms of gameplay mechanics, and even the story was a bit pointless at times. The game is supposed to be an origin story and prequel to the first Resident Evil game. It's supposed to answer questions like who created the T-virus and why, and how did the virus spread? You know, basic stuff like that. With all that said, I was a tad bit hesitant to pick up RE0 by itself because based off what people have been saying about the game and the fact that I really don't care for prequels sometimes, I was just not feeling the game. But when I was at my local game store and I saw this copy and I saw that this classic collection was only $20, I said, you know what, fuck it. And I bought it because I figured if I play Resident Evil 0, I'll play it. And so I ended up playing it and I found myself really digging it. In fact, for a while now, I almost considered this game better than the first game. Or at least that's how I felt before making this video. You see, again, there is a lot of good ideas in this game, but there's also a lot of bullshit. And yeah. So regardless, let's start today's episode as we take a look at a game that could have been better, had the potential to be better than the original, but kind of shat its pants upon delivery. Actually, you know what? No, cut that. That sounds too graphic and gross. So the game kicks off with our heroine Rebecca Chambers narrating the reason as to why stars are investigating the woods. Apparently, they're investigating a series of gruesome murders in the suburbs that all link towards this mysterious forest. Oh, by the way, this is Bravo Team. You know, Bravo Team, the team that was sent to investigate the mansion before Chris and Jill made it to it. Anyway, the engine to their helicopter blows out, which, yeah, that's not a good thing. They make a crash landing into the forest, and instead of, you know, questioning what just happened, the STARS team is all like, okay, gang, let's split up and look for clues. Because, you know, nothing bad ever happens to a group of people when they split up in a horror story. Rebecca then spots a van that has been toppled over with some, dead people under it. Yeah, sure. We'll just pretend they're dead and we'll also ignore this goo dripping from the van. Rebecca then finds a clipboard. Oh God, not a clipboard. The horrors. The clipboard reads of a man named Billy Cohen who was being transported as a prisoner. Apparently, he had committed some gruesome murders in his past and is now the wanted suspect for killing these guys. Again, we're just gonna ignore this love juice. The Bravo team is ordered to stay vigil as Billy might be running around the woods like a weirdo. They then split up some more and our girl Rebecca makes her way to a mysterious train that seems to have been stopped in the middle of the woods. Like the brave sacrificial lamb, our girl goes into the train to investigate. Upon entering the train, you'll see it's pretty much empty. Entering the next car, Rebecca will see that there are dead people. Although, are they really dead if they come to life? Well, I guess technically they're being reanimated or something like that. Whatever. Regardless, we shoot the fuck out of these things because, you know, fuck them. So as Rebecca makes her way towards the front of the train, we are introduced to our second protagonist, Billy. So I kind of have this random theory. It's not a solid theory that's rooted in any kind of logic, but I feel like Billy is somehow Nemesis. You know, the big antagonist from Resident Evil 3. And I only believe this because of how Billy pronounces stars.
Oh, I see. You're with stars.
It's very similar to how Nemesis pronounces stars. Again, I have no logical reason to believe this other than how he speaks. Unimportant. Billy ends up blowing her off, and she doesn't really seem to make an effort to go after him. Okay, a little backstory on our heroes. Our heroine, Rebecca Chambers, is a 20-something fresh-faced rookie. Tonight is her first night on the job, which, yeah, probably wasn't the best experience to have on your first day, just saying. Rebecca isn't as ballistic heavy as Jill Valentine, and unfortunately, she's not that jiggly. Well, her medic bag seems to jiggle, but that's pretty much it. What she lacks in armory, she makes up for it with her warm personality. I think most Resident Evil characters all kind of share this connection of being very sympathetic people. She is seen throughout the game willing to lend a hand to our second protagonist, Billy, and she's always seen being concerned for others' safety. She is also a bit of a firecracker. When she first meets Billy, she kind of gets stern with him, telling him she can pretty much handle herself, demonstrating how tough and brave she is. She also does not like to be called little girl, but seems pretty okay with being called Dollface. After her empowering speech, Dollface immediately gets herself into danger, causing Billy to save her ass. Then he does one of these for some reason. You know, dude, you could have just, like, I don't know, stood there and shot them. You didn't really need to leap like this. Seek help, Billy. Although one thing that does bother me about this scene is that the leeches cover Rebecca's entire body, yet she doesn't get infected. Okay, so how does this work? Is it the goo that infects people, or do these things have to bite you? I'm assuming it's a bit of both. Like, if the goo touches a wound, wouldn't that, like, spread the virus into the bloodstream? And why wouldn't they bite her? Shouldn't she have been bitten? Whatever, I guess plot armor is the biggest weapon that these two characters have, huh? I would say I really do like Rebecca, though. I know I was just teasing her, but I actually do consider her maybe my third favorite female character from the Resident Evil series. Jill will always be number one. Well, some days. I do really like Claire, though. But what I like about Rebecca is that her story revolves around her being new to the job. She's a bit naive, but she's also strong-willed and willing to make tough decisions, even if it means defying orders. Like, she generally wants to hear Billy's side of his story. She wants to believe that he's a good person and not a murderer. She's also a brave person in the sense that she's willing to sacrifice her job and even her safety to put trust in a man with a shady past. I guess you could critique her for being a bit too naive, but I think the situation she was thrown into kind of overshadows concerns about whether or not Billy did in fact murder people. Speaking of Billy, Billy is a character. I don't know, man. He's he isn't a bad character, he's just kind of forgettable. I mean, has Billy ever been brought up once or even shown in any future games? Maybe he's an RE9, I don't know. At the end of the game, he kind of just derps off and we never really see him again, which could fuel my nemesis theory. Probably not. I don't think he's a bad character. He's just not really fleshed out. We know he's a good guy, even though he murdered some people. Oh, wait, no, he didn't murder people. Wait, did he murder people? You see, Billy was an ex-soldier who was tasked to go fight in Africa to fight against some rebels. I have no idea what rebels he was fighting, but yeah, he was fighting rebels. Anyway, him and his platoon got intel that there was a group of rebels in an African village. But of course, it turned out that they were wrong. And for some odd reason, the military was all like, well, we can't go back empty-handed, so let's kill ourselves some villagers. Billy was all like, no. And then he tries to stop his own platoon, but then they like knock him out for like 5 seconds and then he like wakes back up and then tries to stop them again or something like that. I'm gonna be honest, I still don't understand what really happened to Billy in Africa. Like, I've played this game a few times now and I still don't get it. And Billy being cryptid after telling his story honestly did not help. I don't know, maybe I'm just stupid and can't comprehend simple things. Anyway, Billy is an action hero. In fact, he's the action hero of the story, you know? He's the man's man, you know? Doing random leaps in the air, having one-liners after killing big bosses. Yeah, he's awesome. Well, kind of. I mean, okay, he's not as cool as, say, Chris or Leon. Those guys are like top dogs. Billy is, he's like a, you know, he's like a aggressive swipey cat. You know, they're still kind of cool. They do cool shit, but they just, you know, they get a little swipey from time to time. Yeah, I'm talking about you, Selena. I don't know. Compared to Rebecca, I just felt Billy was nothing more than just the muscle of the duo. Yeah, he had a little bit of personality, like he would flirt and tease Rebecca, but that was only in the beginning of the game. Throughout the game, he was just kind of this stoic person. I feel like I like Billy for more of what he could do gameplay wise rather than, you know, him as an actual character. Actually, that's not true either, as his gameplay was also not that great. Okay, maybe I just don't like Billy.
Oh, I see.
The duo protagonist's gameplay is one of the reasons why I actually kind of like this game. I know the gameplay mechanics might not appeal to some, but I was actually quite surprised on how much I really enjoyed it. The game allows you to switch between these two pretty much at a whim. You can also move the character you're not playing with the right joystick while controlling your character with the left, which is honestly nice. If they get in the way, you can pretty much move them, and I like that. I don't like it when my AI partner is in my fucking way. You can also trade off inventory items when needed, and what's also cool is that you can just leave your partner in one room while you go explore the map. Although, be careful because your partner can get into danger and does need rescuing. But what's cool, your partner character can actually defend themselves when you're not in the room. Just make sure you remember to turn on the AI setting in the partner AI command menu, otherwise they don't do shit. One of the important aspects of the duo gameplay system is that Rebecca and Billy have different gameplay stats and mechanics. Billy is tougher than Rebecca. He can deal more damage and take more hits, where Rebecca is the opposite. Although I'm going to be honest, I don't know how much a difference Billy's offense really is. I mean, I felt like it took the same amount of bullets to take down one zombie regardless of being Billy or Rebecca. Although that might depend on the gun you use though, because during this playthrough, I had Rebecca fight the scorpion boss rather than Billy. And when I did that, I felt like it took forever to put down the scorpion. Where on the other hand, I felt like Billy kind of defeated the scorpion quicker. Oh, by the way, that's something that's kind of cool about this game is that you can actually send either Billy or Rebecca to do something, and the cutscene will reflect based off your choice. I kind of like that because they both have somewhat different reactions to things, plus it kind of makes replaying the game much more interesting as you can essentially carve out your own scenes, depending on who you choose. I read some reviews saying that the AI of their partner wasn't really all that great, but I kind of found it to be the opposite for me. I found my AR partner did way better during combat than I did. They were able to hit targets I wasn't even aware of. Although one annoying aspect about the AI partner is that if they die, you pretty much lose the game. So you do have to spend a little time babysitting your partner, but it's nowhere near as bad as babysitting Ashley in Resident Evil 4. So I'm pretty much fine with this. I do really like it when the two are forced to separate because it forces you to participate in one of my favorite gameplay mechanics. I'm pretty sure I've stated somewhere in my other videos that I really enjoy point and click adventure games, so I like item-based puzzles. Given Rebecca and Billy are separated, they have to trade off items via dumbwaiter. Wait a minute, it's actually spelled dumb waiter? Like dumb as in dumbass and waiter as in dumbass? Huh. Well, that's kind of rude. Random note aside, I like trading off items between the two using the system. I know it's kind of tedious though, as it would have been a lot cooler if you could send a large batch of equipment between the two rather than send each item one at a time. But I kind of like this. Only because I like how you have to make mental notes of which items are crucial to send between the two. You have to make sure Rebecca has X amount of ammo, or make sure Billy has the correct puzzle solving item. But it is a tedious system and it does require a lot of backtracking. And sometimes the items you send over might not be the right items for the puzzle you're trying to solve. Or sometimes items might not even fit in the dumbwaiter, which can be kind of a beginner's trap if you're not careful. Like for example, at one point you have to separate either Billy or Rebecca to use the grapple gun to rappel upwards and have one character explore upstairs. I chose Rebecca for this playthrough, and I noted if you don't give Rebecca the good weapons like the grenade launcher, well then you're kind of screwed, as these leech monsters will kill you pretty quickly. And you can't unfortunately send the launcher through the dumbwaiter because yeah, it's too big. Luckily you can regroup, but if you're unfamiliar of what to expect, it can easily lead to your death. Still though, I like the system. Now, Billy and Rebecca also have their own special items. Rebecca is the only character in this game that can mix medicine. The staple classic in Resident Evil games is being able to mix herbs together to create antidotes or stronger healing agents. She has a mixer that allows her to do that. She can also mix chemicals to solve chemical-based puzzles, which I really loved as it requires you to find containers that have specific chemicals and you have to mix them together. Some even require you to mix them with water. Not as cool as RE1 where you had to actually use a formula to create your cocktail, but it did remind me of a point and click adventure game that I recently played called Kyandria 2. In that game, you had a potion book that you had to use in order to gather ingredients around the world and mix them into your cauldron. These would create potions that you would use to solve puzzles. Pretty cool game, by the way. Highly recommend. Billy, on the other hand, has a lighter that doesn't work, and you have to find fuel for it in order to fill it. And the puzzle you use it for is pretty obvious on how to solve it. But hey, Billy can push things because, you know, Rebecca is a weakling. And he also can play the piano because for some odd reason Rebecca can't. Yeah, Billy didn't really get anything cool like Rebecca. He really was just the muscle. Which is not a bad thing, but I don't know, he still could have been a much more interesting character. I can say I kind of understand why some people would blow off this game. There are some annoyances that I did know while playing that were not the most pleasant to deal with. Like the fact that this game lacks the staple storage boxes that we have seen in, God, at least all Resident Evil games, if not most. In fact, this game is infamous for that detail. Before playing this, I actually did not want to buy this game game because of the lack of storage boxes. I thought that was the dumbest thing I've ever heard, and I refused to participate in Capcom's dumbness. But again, after picking up the PS4 collection, which featured both 1 and 0, I just gave it a shot. And I can say after playing this game many times, the lack of storage boxes is still one of the dumbest ideas Capcom has ever done. Well, actually, that's not true. Not continuing developing / releasing Mega Man Legends 3 is probably the dumbest thing Capcom has ever done. Although, I'm sure we can make a fucking list. So with the game getting rid of the storage boxes, the game forces you to drop your items, which might not seem like a big deal if you were just dropping like health items to clear up your inventory, but you don't just collect resources in this game, you're also collecting some crucial items to solve puzzles, and not having a proper place to store those items is really dumb. I will say that most puzzle items have an obvious home to where they belong to, like the angel booby statue obviously goes on the scale, or the clock hand goes on this clock, but if you're anything like me, you're the type of person who wants to explore all rooms before tackling any puzzles, and that means you'll end up collecting a shit ton of items. And with no place to store them, I had to pretty much designate a room to be my items room. It gets even dumber when you find yourself just dropping everything in that safe room, only to be greeted with this fucking notice. Yeah, get used to hearing that noise. Also, there's another annoyance. When you drop an item, sometimes the item just drops out of frame. And given this is a game with fixed camera angles, you can't see where you fucking drop that item. So what you have to do is just keep walking around like an idiot while, rapidly pressing X until your character fucking picks up the item you can't freaking see. Sometimes you end up picking up the wrong item because your character's a fucking idiot. Yeah, this game needed the storage boxes. I have no fucking clue as to why they got rid of them, because not only do you go from location to location, you are required to bring your items between locations, especially the grappling hook, because you'll be using that thing throughout the entire game. And if you forget to bring the grappling gun, you would then have to make a trek all the way back to where you left it. Oh, and make sure you remember where you're dropping items, because given you have a limited number of items you can drop in one room, you might be designating other rooms for your items. Yeah, make sure you remember those rooms as well, because while your map does tell you where you placed items, playing the whole which room was it game is kind of annoying. Also, make sure you interact with an item in a room even if you don't plan on picking it up, because I would do this thing where I would enter a room, see an item, and not pick it up in hopes to come back for the item later. But then when later does come, I would forget where I saw that item, and because I didn't interact with it physically, it doesn't get marked on my map. Yeah, again, Capcom. Why the fuck did you not put the storage boxes in this game? What the hell, guys? What the fuck were you guys smoking, or what were you not smoking that made you forget this shit, guys? Come on. To be fair, looking past the dumb lack of storage boxes, there's still a good chunk of goodness found in this game, like exploring and solving puzzles. Like all Resident Evil games, the game's quality and enjoyment, for me at least, can depend on the locations you're exploring. Comparing this game to, of course, the Spencer's Mansion, or the police station, or even Raccoon City, I would say the locations in this game are not as cool as exploring the first 3 games, with the exception, of course, of the train being fucking godly. Well, okay, I still like the mansion a bit more than the train, just because the puzzles and the atmosphere are a bit more spookier and kookier. I don't know, I like the mansion, but I'm still in love with the train location a lot more than I should be. The other locations in RE0 consist of a training facility, a church, an underground lab / library, a factory, and a water facility, water treatment plant something like that. Unfortunately, though, I do think the locations could have been a bit more appealing to explore. Again, I do love this train. I think it's still one of my all-time favorite locations in the Resident Evil franchise, probably number 2. I do wish, though, there was more to explore. Maybe they could have added a little bit more carts, or maybe added more levels to this thing, or maybe even explore a train station. That honestly would have been kind of cool. In fact, I was slightly hoping that's where our next location was going to take place, but it wasn't. With trains comes mysteries, and given I like spooky settings, exploring a train in this game was probably one of the coolest areas I got to explore. I love how you go from normal seated areas to cars that have personal rooms. I love how you can explore the dining cart, the kitchen, there's a storage car, and even a bar. Although this bar has a scorpion in it, so drink responsibly. I do kind of wish the train had more interactive puzzles, or puzzles that were a bit more wacky like the ones found in the Spencer's Mansion. Like most of the puzzles here are your typical adventure style game puzzles. Find the right item for whichever obstacle that's in your way. While I do wish there was more unique puzzles on this train, the final puzzle for the train was fucking cool. So the final puzzle happens when Rebecca and Billy make their way to the front of the train. They realize that the train is going way faster than normal, and Billy notes that the train is set to either derail or crash. To stop the train, you're tasked with operating the brake controls, which are located in the front of the train and the back of the train, meaning you have to either send Billy or Rebecca to disable the brakes in the back. For this playthrough, I chose Rebecca. Oh, by the way, don't forget to grab this key card because, you're gonna need it. I made that mistake in the beginning. So you then navigate your way to the back of the train before the timer hits 0. Dodging zombies and whatnot. Hey look, a member from the Bravo Company. Well, yeah, I guess he was a member. Once you're in the back of the train, you have to insert the key card into the computer panel. You then have to input a code. Now, I remember when I first played this game and I got to this point, I remember thinking, did I miss something? Because I was like, code? What code do I need to input? When was there a code? Did I forget to grab a journal passage? Did I not read something correctly? But looking at the panel, you can see that a number in the screen indicates that you have to input 9 numbers that will add up to this number. Luckily, you can pause the game so you don't have to worry about the timer while trying to figure out this mathematical equation. It is kind of super easy when you figure out that you can pretty much just input any numbers you want and you don't have to have a specific set of numbers. As long as your total equals this number, you're basically fine. But figuring that part out was so much fun. I can't calculate numbers in my head, so I had to pretty much work it out on paper, which honestly, having to work things out on paper usually ends up being more meaningful and memorable to me. And once the back is done, you have to do the same thing with Billy in the front. Unfortunately, the counter is broken, so you have to figure it out on paper before just inputting numbers. Again, I love this shit. Although after hitting the brakes, the train still crashes. So, What was the point of rushing then, Bill? Yeah, okay, so regardless, the train does crash. Luckily, though, our heroes survive. Wait, how did they survive? Plot armor. After questioning physics, we make our way to the training facility. I can say that the training facility was supposed to be very similar to Spencer's Mansion. The puzzles are kind of kooky and wacky. The architecture is pretty similar, which I do like. You have rooms that were meant for like recreation, like there's a bar. Then you have rooms that look like they held larger meetings. You have the simple study rooms. You have dorms, or I don't know, whatever's going on down here. The basement / torture room to this facility was it was pretty unsettling to look at. I wouldn't say I'm the biggest fan of traveling around the basement of this facility, but I guess the unsettling nature of this area sort of adds to the whole horror experience. So it kind of checks out. Although, fuck these monkeys, man. I hate monkeys. Not just in this game, but also in real life. I may or may not have an irrational fear of primates. Although, I will say the monkeys showing up was the start of my least favorite sequence of this game. What comes next is usually the part that makes me think twice before even wanting to play this game again. At a certain time in the game, Rebecca has to crawl through a space to get to another side of the room. Unfortunately, given that she's petite, she's the only one who can fit through these tight spaces. because, you know, Billy is all big and strong. After getting to the other side, she does a little voltage puzzle to turn on the power in the area, and then she gets attacked by a fucking monkey. But she ends up saving herself. You know, you should probably sue whoever built this place because that just seems unacceptable. Anyway, Billy then has to make a mad dash to get to her location. Okay, so I fucked this one up the first time I played it, only because I really had no idea where she was. Sure, you have a map that tells you her location, but I mean, come on, what room is this? Where am I going? Oh well, it's not like she was that important to the main plot. But yeah, you have to go from one side of the map all the way to the other side while dodging monkeys. Fucking monkeys. You know what? I'm just gonna say this, and I know it might sound controversial to you guys, but Frieza was right. Frieza was right. He was fucking right. Enemies in general in this game weren't too overwhelming. If you play any Resident Evil game, you'll pretty much recognize all the enemies in this game. You know, you got your zombies, your hunters, you got bug creatures. The only enemy that really stressed me out, besides the monkeys, were the fucking leech people. When I first played this game, I remember just like really stressing out every time I heard that jingle play. The nightmares. They're not impossible to beat, as their weakness seems to be fire. Like John the Martian, you basically can just defeat them with anything that shoots fire, like the grenade launcher, but they can stretch and hit you from afar like they're freaking Mr. Fantastic, and they can deal a good amount of damage to you. Stress aside, the training facility does have some pretty sick puzzles, especially in the basement where you have to decipher a riddle in order to open these gates. You have to press these statues in the right order that relates to the riddle, and I fucking love this. I'm sure if you see my other videos, you probably heard me say this already, but I really love riddle-based puzzles, or any puzzles that require you to read a line of passage and decipher meaning from those texts that result in solving said puzzle. There are other puzzles in the training facility that are actually pretty cool. I do like collecting these angel and dark angel statues and having to place them on the scale in order to open a secret door. I like this because you also had to find the wings for the statues and combine them with the statue's bust. A very classic point and click item based puzzle. Once you leave the training facility, you'll make your way to the church. Okay, I really like the atmosphere of the church grounds. The architecture of the church is, I guess you can call, gothic looking, not as intense as something out of a Dracula movie, but still pretty gothic. I love the setting because I like the little details here. I like the bridge you have to cross that is built over, you know, a body of water. I also like that there's bats flying around, and even inside the church with the candles and the spooky study room, it all fits that sort of spooky and mysterious atmosphere. The church is where you fight the giant man-sized bat. I really wish there was more to explore here, but it seems the church grounds was really meant for this boss battle, as you make your way through it pretty quickly. This and the train were my favorite settings to look at, only because they both kind of have a more familiar feel, I guess. You know, I like when horror games allow you to explore locations you probably have been to, as opposed to, say, something like a training facility or even a factory. These locations are not locations I would have ever come across in my life, so I don't have a lot of connection to them. Plus, visually, some of them just don't cut it for me. This church, on the other hand, this is amazing, and it really fits the horror setting. After the church, you make your way to a secret elevator that leads you to an underground library / laboratory. Because God knows, Resident Evil needs more underground labs. I would say it's an okay location. Like, I like the creepy library setting mixed with the lab. I like how the walls and doors and all the interior design has a more, I think you would call this a neoclassic design, something like that, which was a interior design created during the 18th century to sort of reflect more Roman and Greek architecture. Places like the White House would be considered like neoclassic architecture. I actually do like this interior style for buildings and stuff, I always felt it fit perfectly with Resident Evil. I'm not a huge fan of the lab from the second RE2, or should I say specifically the remake. I found the lab to be a tad bit too clean. I guess that makes sense, but it's not spooky enough. I don't know. This looks spooky to me and I like it. It's pleasant to look at in comparison to, say, modern interior architecture, which looks like shit. Anyway, this location made use of the dual protagonists being separated and having to trade off items via the dumbwaiter. Not super heavy on puzzles in this area other than maybe your simple item-based puzzles. Oh wait, no, I actually take that back. There is a combination puzzle that has you read a journal entry in order to decipher a code that allows you to input into this door, which was actually pretty fun. Although to get this number, you basically have to take the number highlighted in red and add or subtract the number based off what was highlighted in the other colors. I am actually not a fan of them highlighting the steps you have to take in order to solve this puzzle. I would much prefer them to just force you to read the entire journal to make a guess as to what you need to do, because you really don't need to read any of this text. You just read the colored text and boom, you have your answer. Still fun though, I just don't like them holding your hand. Leaving the lab, you enter the factory. Now, the factory is where the locations start to look a bit boring for my taste. I'm not a huge fan of factory settings, especially in games like Resident Evil. They kind of are uninspiring to look at. Again, it goes back to sort of the familiarity of the setting. In fact, the only worth notable thing about the factory is that this is where Rebecca meets a prototype tyrant for the first time. I kind of hate how they just threw a tyrant in this game. You see, the reveal of the tyrant in the first Resident Evil game was treated of such great importance. Like, this was supposed to be a revolutionary advancement of the T-virus inside of a test subject. Throwing a proto-tyrant at you really kind of downplays the severity of the tyrant from the first game. It just felt like filler, and there was really no reason, story-wise, as to why this tyrant needed to be in the game. I would even go as far and say I don't recommend playing Resident Evil 0 before playing the first game, only because the reveal of the tyrant is so important and crucial to that story. This right here, this feels kind of cheap and I really don't like it. But hey, once you defeat the tyrant, you have access to the elevator that will allow you to travel between all the locations that you have visited. So I kind of didn't realize that the water treatment facility and the factory were technically different locations until making this video. They just look so similar that it was kind of hard to separate them as different locations. The water treatment facility is just very dull to look at. Kind of like the factory, it's just not interesting. It's just a factory setting with some water running through it. Although I will say, before entering the facility, I did enjoy this like one area where we got to see like water just rushing and gushing out of the facility. It was, I don't know, this was kind of cool, I guess. There's also a bridge you cross that has water running underneath it, so that was cool. I think what I'm basically saying is that I preferred the outdoor areas in this location. You know, they were good. I like the outdoors. I like water, I guess. The facility does have one of the more tedious puzzles in this game. This one was kind of a stumper because you have to run power through the entire facility and you can only select 3 areas of interest that would run power through the entire grid. It's a lot of trial and error. Not really hard, just tedious, and it stumped me only because it took forever. You know, one of the reasons I don't like this facility is because I just hate how rusted everything looks. Like, I feel like I have to get a tetanus shot, and I'm not even there, really. That, and besides the look of the facility, the puzzles were just kind of meh. I mean, I did like the puzzle that had Billy push the crates to create a bridge, and then you were tasked to flood the area so you could run across it to grab this valve. I also like how this facility made use of Rebecca's strength, you know, with her chem set, as well as being small enough to fit in this little crate and then being sent off into danger. Good girl. The funny thing about the water plant is that it feels super short. Surprisingly. I mean, there's things to do in these locations. You know, you got locked doors to unlock, items to collect, enemies to shoot, but surprisingly, it just felt short, which is kind of a theme with this level because after making your way through it, you encounter the main antagonist of the game. This boss battle was pretty easy, and after defeating the Leech Man, it morphs into the Queen, which is the final boss of the game. And after Rebecca and Billy make their way up this elevator, they have a final showdown with the Queen. I was actually quite shocked that this was the final fight, honestly. The usual beat of this game is that after defeating a boss battle, you usually move on to another area you get to explore. But after defeating the main Leech Man, you are then thrown into another boss battle, which was kind of an unusual transition in this game. I would say what's really bizarre, though, about our main antagonist is just how underdeveloped he was. I mean, this boss battle right here is the first time Rebecca and Billy actually meet the main antagonist. Throughout the entire game, they had no idea this guy exists. We, on the other hand, did know he exists because the game at least gave us a bit of backstory throughout the game as to who he was. Like, we as the audience get to see cutscenes with him, and we get to learn that this Leech Man is somehow connected to Dr. James Marcus, who is the creator of the T-Virus, by the way. We also get to learn that Dr. Marcus was obsessed with these leeches that helped transmitted the T-Virus, and we know that Dr. Marcus's presence looms over the training facility. But Rebecca and Billy don't seem to know any of this until this moment, which was weird. And the Leech Man just kind of exposition dumps on them, explaining his entire motive. I guess I wouldn't mind this so much if Billy and Rebecca just had more scenes where they were just, you know, trying to piece things together as to what's happening. They kind of do make note of Dr. Marcus in the game, but it's treated with less importance than it really should have been. All in all, they don't really seem concerned as to what's happening in this game. They seem a little bit more concerned with just getting through the night, which I understand. What I'm not understanding though is why is the Leech Man toying with our heroes, but he was fine with letting Wesker and William Birkins go? We get a cutscene of William and Wesker interacting with the Leech Man, but then they just derp off and leave, and the Leech Man doesn't try to stop them. What's also funny is that while they're leaving, they have to explain to each other their future plans. William Birkins, RE2's main antagonist, explains he'll be going off to further develop the G-Virus, wink wink, and Wesker, our main baddie for, well, I guess most of the games, tells William that he'll be luring the rest of the STARS members to the mansion in order to kill them, wink wink. Holy exposition dump, Batman. So why let them leave? Why not just kill them here and now? Like, if your entire motivation was to get revenge on Umbrella for the death of Dr. Marcus, why kill Rebecca and Billy? Why even mess with them? They literally had nothing to do with any of this. So what's the point? Oh, right. I forgot. It's because they're trespassing.
And I am very territorial.
Right, yes. Honestly, the big reveal and most of the plot in this game just felt a little half-baked. You want to know what else was half-baked? Final boss itself, the Queen Leech. Let's talk about how cliche the final monster's weakness was, which was sunlight. I mean, like, why and how? It's a fucking leech monster. Wait, do leeches not like light? Is it a vampire? So zombies are fine with sunlight, but the queen parasite that spread the zombie virus is different? Does the virus react to sunlight? Is that like a thing? Does, like, to cure the virus, you have to insert sunlight to the formula? Like, huh? I do love this multi-angle shot from Billy before he shoots the monster. Billy, you're just so fucking unnecessary, man. You're just so fucking unnecessary. You know, it's kind of funny. I always considered this game pretty much tied with the first Resident Evil game, but after playing it for this video, I kind of found myself having a little bit more issues with it than I had thought. I think my hype for the game was because of the train and some of the puzzles. I sometimes get a little tricked by a few great moments in the game, and that ends up overshadowing a lot of the more crappier moments. It's just the story could have been a little less half-baked, and some of the locations could have been better. Plus, character motivation in this game is pretty much non-existent, other than maybe surviving the night. Also, what the hell happened to Bravo Team? I kind of wish they had at least explained more of that. We kind of get a glimpse at the Bravo Team. I mean, we actually physically see them, but we don't know a whole lot about them or any development from them. We don't know where they went and how some of them made it to the mansion. Hell, I kind of forgot they existed until Rebecca ran into one of her teammates in the factory. I don't even remember who he really was. Like, what was his name? Was this Enrique? Maybe Enrique? I think his name was Enrique. Maybe. I also seriously don't understand Marcus turning young. Like, what was the reason for this? Couldn't you just turn into your normal old self? Like, why did you need to be young? Also, there's a scene where Billy finds a picture of young Marcus, and Billy was all like, this could be Marcus's grandson. And it's really never referenced again. It just kind of gets dropped. Like, what was this scene supposed to be implying? I don't... Like, what? I don't know, man. I don't know. Did I not unlock a cutscene in this game or something? Because none of this makes sense sometimes. Just like Billy. He never made sense. Okay. Let's finally wrap up this video the same way the game wraps up. By just ending. Yeah, so after finishing the final boss, the game shows Billy and Rebecca going their separate ways. Rebecca steals Billy's dog tag and declares him officially dead. They then salute and go their separate ways. And we never saw Billy ever again. I'm assuming he probably died in the woods due to, I don't know, getting mauled by a fucking zombie bear, something like that. Or maybe he joined the cult from Dead Rising. He seems like someone who would join a cult, I'm just saying. All right. Let's finalize this video with a art ramble. Although before I do that, I like to say thank you so much for watching this video. I hope it was fun, or at least I hope it was of interest to you, that you got something out of it, in a positive way or negative way. Maybe it pissed you off. That's fine. I get pissed off at YouTubers. Like, that's fine. We're allowed to be angry, I do hope, though, generally, though, you got something at least good out of it. Hope it was interesting because, yeah. And, yeah, thank you for watching. Your support means a lot to me. Yeah, so hope you're having a good spooky season or had a good spooky season or, depending on, of course, on if you're watching this during spooky time or after spooky season. It also depends on when I upload this video, which is supposed to be uploaded by Halloween or at least on Halloween, but we'll see. We'll see. I guess, though, if you're watching this before Halloween or on Halloween, then I made my goal. If not, then fuck me, but whatever. Okay, let's do the art ramble rather than me ramble. So yeah, this final art piece was, believe it or not, it was inspired by anxiety and stress. You see, it was deeply and heavily inspired by Society's favorite actor who played a certain Star Wars character where he wore a helmet. Not Boba Fett, the other one. Not Jango, the other one. Yeah, so according to his fans and Society, it seems that this man suffers from anxiety, and when he's anxious, he has the need to grab or touch his female coworkers quite a bit, actually. Apparently he just does that, which I guess Society is fine with it now. It's like, I would assume that was sexual harassment, but I guess we're fine when a certain Star Wars actor does it. We don't question this shit. We're just like, yeah, no, he's anxious. Anyway, so yeah, Billy Pascal is feeling a little anxious right now, and so he's grabbing Rebecca's ass because he's anxious. He's got anxiety, guys. Come on now. I mean, look at the situation. They're overwhelmed by zombies. Of course he's gonna be grabbing some ass. He's going through some anxiety, guys. Okay, don't fucking judge Billy Pascal. Okay. Anyway, this was originally not the pose I had drafted up in my concept sketch. Originally, she was actually just going to be sitting on his shoulders pointing her gun the opposite direction of him pointing his gun. That was going to be the pose. But I don't know, the more I started to flesh out this concept, the more I'm like, you know what? Let's put her over his shoulders. And then I was like, well, how's he going to be holding her? Where's his hand going to be? And then I thought of Pedro Pascal, and I was like, you know what? Society is ready. Society is ready. Please note, we here on Loon Junk Media are not okay with sexual harassment. Please, don't sexual harass people. Don't touch people just because you think you're anxious. Don't. You're gonna go to jail. This is all satire and is meant for comedy. So that was a disclosure in case I get sued or in trouble. Also, I'm not slandering Pedro Pascal. First Amendment rights. Luckily for us, Pedro Pascal is pretty okay with the First Amendment, so I'm allowed to shit on him. Good. Anyway, so yeah, the original concept and the drawing we see now is quite different. Hopefully I can find a thumbnail sketch of the original concept. I was looking through my sketchbooks earlier. I couldn't find the concept, so it's in one of my sketchbooks. Hopefully Future Will can find it for me. Please put it on screen. Thank you, Future Will. If you can, you little bitch. Anyway, for the coloring style, I'm using more of a softer rendering style as opposed to something like cell shading. You see cell shading in more like anime and stuff, or some cartoons. But for this one, I wanted to go with something a little bit more softer. By utilizing the softness, I was able to incorporate lighting a little bit better. The lighting's a little bit more harsher in certain areas of the characters, and that was kind of the goal, because the light's coming above them, shining down, so part of them has to glow a little bit more than other parts. So that was the reason why I wanted to use softer shading. I tried cell shading for this piece, and I just was not satisfied with the look, so I went with softer. I went with a softer shading. This actually originally was not supposed to be a digital illustration. This was actually supposed to be an inked illustration. I was going to physically ink it, but I decided against that because I looked at the thumbnail of my Minish Cap video, which utilizes a physically inked illustration I did for that video. And I looked at it and I kind of thought to myself, does this actually look like a video game review video, or does it look more like an art tutorial? And I thought, yeah, it looks a little too much like an art tutorial. I think I've tried modifying the thumbnail just to like scream video game review, or like whatever all the other cliche YouTube thumbnails are, like best game ever, underrated title, or what. I did something like that for that last video. So yeah, I decided against physically inking this just because I didn't want people confused and thinking that this was going to be an art tutorial. So yeah, all the illustration pieces I'll make for Loon Junk Media will mostly be done digitally. Of course, I say that now, knowing me in the future, I'm gonna be like, no, I want physical inked. Fuck digital, or I don't know. I get in my moods where I'm like, no, I want this over that, because that's me. But the cool thing about my workflow is I'm utilizing a hybrid workflow, meaning that all the illustrations you will see going forward are going to have a pencil version of them, because I like actually sketching on pencil as opposed to sketching on my tablet, which just doesn't feel the same. I can't explain it. It just doesn't feel the same, and it's not satisfying. If I'm gonna at least do something with these illustration pieces, I at least want to physically sketch them out. Plus I bought an art table, so I feel like I need to use it. Plus what's cool is that some of these pencil sketches are going to be presented on my website, so you can check out my website, and if you look under the Loon Junk Media art section, you'll I'm gonna upload some like the behind the scene process sketches that I did for some pieces. So yeah, that's the goal of keeping a hybrid workflow, not just to show the final product, but also to show some of the behind the scenes, some of the sketches that kind of changed while I was making these illustration pieces. So yeah, that should be fun. I'm someone who likes stuff like that, so if you like stuff like that, look forward to that. But yeah, so back to the illustration itself. One of the biggest inspirations, besides the ass grabber, was the 2003 Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle cartoon. During the theme song of the cartoon, there's a scene where ninjas from the Foot Clan are swarming the Turtle Boys, and then it cuts to the turtles sort of in the middle of a spotlight being shined down above them, and it's just pitch black all around, and they're just like readying their weapons and they're ready to fight. That was an inspiration for this piece, because I knew I wanted the characters in sort of a spotlight with everything pitch black around them, and they're being swarmed. Plus, I also wanted to add some sort of battle damage to our characters. You can see Rebecca, she twisted her ankle. Billy has his wrist kind of wrapped up as well. They're both scarred. And the reason why I did that was because, when it comes to scenes like these, and when it comes to intense dramatic scenes, I like it when our heroes look like shit. I like heroes that look like they were in battle, like the Daredevil series from Netflix, where Matt Murdock always looks like shit at the end of every fight he does. I've always liked that. I always liked our heroes looking like shit. It's realistic, people don't come out of a battle unscarred. No one just walks out of a war looking fine. There's going to be some damage. There's going to be some wounds, And so that's what I wanted to show in our heroes, is make them look like they've been through shit, basically. Although I just realized Rebecca has more ripped clothes than Billy. Billy looks fine. Billy's a trooper. Oh, that's probably because I was trying to reflect how Billy has better defense than Rebecca. I think that might have been the inspiration as to why she's more beat up than he is. Maybe? I don't know. Silent Hill 2 is starting to creep back, isn't it? Yeah, oh boy. We're gonna get deep in my psyche, aren't we, with this one? Oh shit. Another major influence was I wanted to create a scene that showed danger and urgency, and I wanted our characters to be overwhelmed, stressed. So stress was a real inspiration for this piece, and I wanted our characters to look it. That's why we see all these zombies surrounding them. But I think the challenge was, while I did want there to be a sense of urgency and overwhelmingness. Is that a word? I don't care if it's a word. Well, I did want that. I didn't want to overwhelm the audience looking at this art piece. Part of me feels like it's a little bit cluttered while looking at this, but another part of me is fine by it because I know where my eyes are going, which is Billy and Rebecca, because they are the only characters who are actually fully rendered, and they have a lot more warmer color tones to their skin, so my eyes are a little bit more directed towards them. At least that's where my eyes go, and I'm hoping that's where your eyes going too. What the thing about art is that we're supposed to help guide you people through our art without having to explain it, so hopefully I did that correct. Little not so confident, I suppose, in my voice, but whatever. So yeah, that's why I didn't fully render the zombies in the back or the front. I wanted them to be sort of like shadows in the night, so that's why you can just see their outlining. And what's interesting though about this art piece was Arthur Adams. I know a lot of artists would say, oh yeah, Arthur Adams is my biggest inspiration. But yeah, Arthur Adams did play a role in helping me decide how I wanted to go about with the zombies. He has done some, I think they're cover arts for the Walking Dead comics. I think. I own some of his art books, and I've seen drawings he's done with characters being surrounded by zombies and that they're in a state of panic. And that was what I wanted to also capture. And Arthur Adams kind of helped me fill in some blanks, especially how to go about the zombies. Zombie poses can be kind of awkward because it's like, how do you create something that's slow and dumb but also threatening, Yeah. Thank you, Arthur Adams, for helping me get through this drawing. Yeah. So yeah, that wraps things up. That's all I got to say about this art piece. It was It was an interesting experience. It was a little bit, I would argue this art piece was a tad bit overwhelming, a tad bit. I kind of procrastinated on it. Usually I get these art pieces done way before I even start editing the video. I actually got this art piece done while I was editing the video, so I kind of procrastinated just a little bit on it. That's okay. We won't tell anybody. We'll just keep that between you and I, right? We won't tell anyone that I do this. We won't tell anyone that I procrastinate, right? This is between you and I, right? Between you and I. Shh, don't tell anybody. What do you mean it's public? Wait, other people can see this video?
Hey Talia, what was your opinion on Resident Evil 0? Nothing? Alright, that's fine.